$15,000. Like they are
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. And when you walked in and saw it, what was your did you need to touch it?
I needed to lick it. Like I just wanted to like pet it, everything. I was like, this is so yummy and this is so good. And also like he was like, you should get on the synth and chuck on. And I was like, no, I am. Even if he told me like, no, I am. I was like, you can fucking leave the room because me and this baby girl going to have a real deep play. Like,
How would you describe this new album in one word?
in one word.
Yeah, and take your time with it and then why that word?
I think in one word, for me personally, this is a very vulnerable album. Yeah, it's very vulnerable.
Yeah, why vulnerable?
I think because a lot of the stories and a lot of the themes that are attached to this album and the I guess the amount of time it took me to write the songs and to go into the recording process, a lot of them are a lot of hard truths that I've had to face in my life. And it's just, yeah, when I'm writing songs, like I think writing about the self and your own journey is probably the hardest to do because you have to face a lot of realities. You have like a lot of wake up calls throughout your life, and you grow and you unlearn things, and you're unpacking stuff. You're constantly being comfortable and uncomfortable. Like I feel like this whole album has a juxtaposition of those vulnerable emotions, and it's just, yeah, it's just really vulnerable because it's my own stories that I'm talking about, and that's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be, but it makes for beautiful art.
Yeah.
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 Talk me through the process of making this album. Where did you start? Do you start with lyrics or do you start with music?
That's a good question. My songwriting is like random. I don't really have a set way to songwrite. So sometimes I'll just be vibing and I'll pick up the guitar, and just start strumming some chords, and I'm like, that's cool. And then I'll just start randomly improvising some lyrics over it, and I'll just literally press record on my phone and then just go from there. And then from that, I just kind of like sit with the song, because I feel like you need to sit and process what you've just said and what you're singing about and talking about. And I go back and I go, sometimes I'll change the lyrics, sometimes I'll leave them as they are. A lot of the songs on this record, I've left the lyrics as they are, like just straight from the voice note. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a really, I guess, very conventional way to songwrite.
Yeah.
Because people have their set ways of doing things and a ritual in a certain way. Like I know some people will lay down a chord, or like they'll go over to GarageBand or Pro Tools, or use a DAW system to really set out the structure. But I think my structure is just feeling. So if it feels good,
Instinct.
yeah, I'll just be like, yeah, deadly, leave it like that.
Yeah, cool.
And if there's something just not right about it, I guess, which is why it took me so long to release this album, is because there's so many songs on there that I've had to go back in and be like, hi, I'm just going to re-traumatize myself for a little bit.
How long did this album take?
The earliest song that I wrote on there, I wrote in high school, and that was Magic Woman Dancing. I wrote that when I was 14, and none of the lyrics have changed. Like, they're all the same. And then I think the most recent one I wrote was STFAFM, which has a naughty word in it.
You can say it on here.
Okay,
That's yeah.
Yeah, no, it's called Stay the Fuck Away From Me. And that song was written probably 2 years ago, on my island home, my ancestral island, Bickerton Island, Milyakwa, up in Northern Territory. And I think even though there's such a big gap of the songs, the whole actual recording and wanting to get in the studio started maybe 5 years ago. Um, I really wanted to find the right producer. So I went around and I was, hitting up people and hitting up Mob. Like,
What was that process like? Like, what?
I just kind of reached out.
How
Yeah.
did you go into finding the right producer?
Listening to music that I liked and being like, who kind of does the same kind of vibe? Like, who has that really out of the box mind? And there was some really cool producers that I connected with, but I just felt like they weren't ready for that kind of out of the box kind of stuff that I was doing, and what I wanted to do with the album as well. I usually with projects and stuff, especially with music, there's that whole marketing that goes with music, and people want to see and hear one genre. And I guess because growing up and when I first started out in music, people just automatically boxed me in to folky or singer songwriter or like roots and blues. But I sang R&B, I sang like I sang jazz. Like there's all these amazing things that I also am as an artist outside of just those boxes. And I felt like with this album, I really wanted to find someone who wanted to stay out of the box with me and wanted to create a safe space where we could just fucking, eat good food and do all the yummy good things together.
Who did you end up finding?
So I ended up co-producing with my really good friend Queer James,
Hmm.
who's also done work for AB Original. He's done Dr. G's album. And I think with Queer James, because we have that connection, like my dad's Filipino, Chinese, and he's also Filipino man. And so we were like that automatic fam, like kin.
Mm.
And then when I found out like about all the music stuff, I was just like, this is cool. This is someone I feel safe with expressing my musical and musicianship, I guess. But
Because it is a like vulnerable moment, like
yeah,
sharing that and going into that creative process.
100%. You get so shit scared.
Yeah, and the this is your first time co-producing.
Yes, yeah, it is my first time co-producing, and I think I've worked on a lot of like smaller projects, like theatre projects, or like songwriting on a friend's albums and things. But to be so central and to play like not only just the artist, be the face of it, but to also be like behind the music as well. It's it's kind of like surreal because you don't really see many black women in that producer role. Like the only people that I could probably think of at the top of my head, Shelley Morris,
Hmm.
Candice from Marinda's.
Yeah,
Um, that's probably all I can think of at the
that's
top of my
okay. Yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it is a hard kind of role because you'll kind of like have to separate yourself, but you're also like so in it, like in the feels of it that
Yeah, and you've almost got to direct yourself.
yeah.
What was
So it was
that?
good having Queer James because he was like, hold up, let's come back to this. Like, let's do this. What does this bit want to sound like? What do you want to put here? And I was just throwing out like I was just brain vomiting everything I could think of for these tracks. And we actually had to limit um and really kind of suppress a lot of not a lot of those thoughts, but yeah, we kind of just had to be like, that's not for this track. Maybe for the next album,
Yeah.
let's save that. There was an unknown basket and there was a known basket. And half of the songs that were on this are on this album were probably in the unknown basket. And most of the songs that were in the known basket kind of flicked over.
Yeah. How many songs are on the album?
There is 12 songs.
Oh, how many songs did you write in total that didn't make
Do
it?
you want to know that
I
number?
absolutely, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I brought forward 2 years ago when I was finessing the album, I was going through all the songs. I think there was 132 songs that I kind of had to cut and be like, no, that's not for this album. That's not for this album. That's for another album. Um, I really wanted to honor my stories in this album and the truth and the vulnerability that came with those things because I personally believe that when people see that you're leading in a safe space, like and you're because for me it's about community. Like community has always been the heart of what I do. I try to go back every couple of months to my own community and do music workshops or even just sit and be there. It's really important to be on country.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think with this album and choosing the songs, it wasn't that hard because I felt like after the demo things, the songs just kind of stuck out to me where I was like, that's the one that makes me feel like nothing or everything. Because NARA, which is the name of the album, translates to nothing in Anindilyakwa.
Mm.
And it stemmed out of like the house fire and losing everything. And then when I lost everything, I realized, actually, bitch, like, no, like you've got everything you need. Like you got your people, you got your fam, you've got that love, your baby's safe, like your mum's safe, like the people in those houses, they're all safe. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
made me redirect my energy into what was more important and also into long-term thinking as well, like things that happen, like opportunities come and go, and that's cool. Like I truly believe in standing strong in your vulnerability and having the power to say no when you don't feel like you want to do things too.
absolutely. Can we talk about the fire?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. No,
what
totally.
was what was that like? What went through your head?
At first, because I had major surgery the day before,
I
and so
remember your Instagram or Facebook
yeah.
around this time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty hectic. Um, I just remember like my brother coming in the room and he had to like literally slap me to wake me up because I was passed out from all the drugs from the surgery the day
Mm.
before. So my body was just like flatlining, like it just didn't feel good. And then I woke up and I remember just like looking at the wall and seeing my grandmother's painting on fire. And it was just this moment where I was like noticed there's smoke in my room because the fire started underneath my room.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea. And I just remember waking up and just sweat and like hot. And I was like, whoa, an actual fire. And then I got up really calmly. And the first thing I grabbed was my daughter's dummy.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter wasn't home at that time. So it was just like an automatic mum thing. Like,
Yeah, just like survival mode
yeah,
and
was her
protection.
dummy. And then next to the dummy was my laptop. And for some, I just wasn't even thinking. I just grabbed my laptop, dummy on top, and just casually walked out like nothing was happening. I was really calm about it. I remember my brother being like, "You didn't scream, you didn't trip, you just like literally like you were just walking in a park." And I was like, oh, I don't know. A part of me, I remember when I came to the front and there were all these fucking like papa like just people at the front taking photos of
Mm.
us and like all the journalism stuff, which I totally get. I'm like, yeah, cool. And so I wanted to throw hands with all the journalists at the front. I think that was the only
Where was the house?
in
Like
me engine in
in
West
me?
End.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was pretty big, and it was pretty chaotic, but I just remember feeling this sense of relief that I've got nothing to hold me back. Like
Mm.
now I could move to London if I wanted to with Bub. Like, I just felt like because of
There's
those
nothing tying you
yeah,
to this place
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And Mianjin is an interesting place for me, like
Yeah.
a lot of good and bad memories there. But yeah, I don't think I'd live there again. So
How long were you in Mianchin?
from when I was 6.5 till 5.5 years ago, so 2022, right after I had my daughter, and then I moved to Tasmania, Lutruwita, after the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I want to talk a bit about like your the change in sound from like your earlier work. Like sonically, it's so different to this new project.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like you wanted to explore all of the other genres that you love and like out of the box sound. Um, and you are known for your like folksy
Yeah.
audio. So like what were the influences to bring you to this like next stage of creation?
I think a lot of these songs, like Lordy Lordy, for example, I had a production for that ready. Like the demo was pretty much ready to go. Um, and I was rapping on the demo, which was really funny. And because that's something I don't show anyone. Like I've dabbled in R&B and hip hop, and have worked with amazing hip hop producers all across the world. And um, I think when you truly embrace yourself, you embrace all your weird little things. And I guess people, especially in this industry, the expectation from First Nations artists specifically is, we either have to be angry, we have to be like, talk about like trauma constantly, like we're surrounded by it. And so I think for me it was like taking back the power. Like I can tell and narrate this story and sonically show my musicianship through my project. And it was just, yeah, it's kind of like a big fuck you to the industry, to be honest, because I felt like I was always the big tick for certain boxes.
Okay.
And it was interesting that the spaces that I would be pushed into, I didn't feel safe in.
Yeah, right.
I didn't feel like I was being seen or heard as an artist. They were like, no, you're the big tick for the black box.
Yeah. How do you want to be seen and heard as an artist?
I want to be seen like as an artist. I just want to be able to be a storyteller and hold safe space with what I'm doing with my project, with my creativity, whatever I'm dabbling in. But I want to inspire people. Like I want to inspire the next generation to be bigger, to be better, to be bolder, to be louder. We're allowed to do that. And I think when I first started out in the industry, a lot of people would just tell me to suck it up or deal with it whenever weird situations or uncomfortable situations would happen. And so I felt like I lost my voice there for a bit. And so this album and my music, I want to show people that actually I am a fucking deadly staunch cunt. Like, and if you want to fuck around, like, let's find out. Like,
Let's
I'm
go.
always, 100%. I'm always there for the challenge. And I feel like I always try and push myself to the max. Even if I'm uncomfortable, like in that space, I grow from that experience and I grow from that. And I just want to be able to show and lead by example that, we're so allowed to be here. And all these opportunities that come, like we can say no, we can say yes, they come, they go. Like it's just about the journey. And I just want to be at the end the best version of me that I can be for myself and for my future.
Can we go back in time a little bit?
Yeah.
And talk about how you first found creativity and what drew you to music as an outlet or songwriting?
So when I moved from Mianjin, I'm from Groot Island to Mianjin, I was about 6 years old, and like all I had ever known was my community, like my grandparents and my family. And so moving away from them was kind of a big point for me because I didn't know anyone in Brisbane. I was just like,
what was the reason for the move?
Well, there's two reasons. One, my dad just wanted to give us better opportunities because living on the island, like it's not much you can do there as a young black woman, And the second one, I was supposed to have an arranged marriage, and my mum was like, "Yeah, nah, like come on, let's go. Like this isn't happening.
Yeah,
like,
we're not doing that."
She wanted me to do amazing things, and I think I'm very, very grateful for that because I just wouldn't be here if my parents didn't move to Brisbane.
Yeah.
And that was a big sacrifice. And then when I moved there, I just felt really homesick and I was like, oh my God, like I remember this thought, like I remember getting off the plane and seeing like the buildings and being tripped out because the buildings were taller than the trees. And I was like, this doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Like this looks like a movie. Like
yeah,
I felt like I was
it's
in
a context
movie
that you've never had before. Yeah.
And so that freaked me out. And then I went to my new school and just didn't feel like I was fitting in because when I moved to Mianjin, I spoke fluent Anindilyakwa. And so I had a bit of a interesting accent when I was younger. And the girls, I remember, would make fun of me and like call me all these terrible names. And
you're 6.5.
I'm 6.5 years old. Yeah. And so I remember I went home and I sat in my room and I just cried. And instead of like getting angry or throwing things or yelling, I remember sitting there and writing this song called Over the Seas. And
Overseas?
Over the Seas,
Over the
yeah,
seas.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was about swimming with mermaids and dolphins and the song taking me back to my grandmother.
Cool. Were you like you wrote it lyrically? Did you play the guitar at that time?
No, I didn't. It was just like an a cappella acoustic thing. And
Cool.
that was like the first song that I
Yeah.
wrote.
Wow.
It was
Have
really
you
cute.
ever recorded it?
I really want to. I feel like, I don't know, I was thinking about yarning to ABC to kind of see if they wanted to do something around it because it's like a bit of a moment for me. And then I loved poetry, loved getting like just reading poetry and reading novels and reading books. Like I remember 7, 8, I would just sit there and I'd be like my nose in books. And then when I turned 7, I they were doing music classes at school and you could learn an instrument. And I told my dad, I was like, I want to learn an instrument. He's like, what instrument do you want to learn? I was like, oh, fuck, I don't even know.
Well, you
So
just want to learn
I
an
just wanted to
instrument.
learn
Yeah.
something, yeah. And so I rocked up at the class and the teacher, I remember the teacher was like, you could do this, you could do this, or, you could do drums, you could do saxophone, you could do violin. And I was like, I actually like classical music, so I might give violin a go. So
All
I
right.
learnt the violin in grade 2,
Yeah.
grade 2, 3, and then kept up with that. Then I went to saxophone.
What age did you go to saxophone?
I think 8, 9.
Okay.
And then from saxophone, I went to clarinet when I was like 11. Then after that, I went piano, keyboard, self-taught in keys, ukulele, self-taught, and then guitar. And then now I'm learning drums.
Oh wow. Do you read music as well? Like
I do read music, yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a headache. I'm more of like a feeling person. I'll just like, there was this thing that I had like it was like a score reader, like you could put notes in and stuff. And I used to sit there for hours and just pretend I was writing like music scores for movies and stuff like that.
on the computer.
On the computer.
Yeah, like notation thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cute. And then when I was 14, sorry, my old manager asked me if I wanted to come join this choir called Ethno.
Okay.
And I was like,
your old manager. So you were making music professionally at that age. Wow.
Yeah, I started music professionally when I was about 14. I think the first time I got on a big stage was with Shelley Morris and the Wurramara song Women, who I just saw recently at the Nemas.
Yeah.
But that was like a full circle moment for me because my grandfather's a Mara man from Wurramara. And so sharing the stage with Shelley at that young age, I was like, wow. And it was at the amphitheatre at Woodford Folk Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Amphitheatre is like huge. It's like
Do you remember what
100,000
year
people.
that was?
2000 and I believe 9.
Okay.
2009, 2010, yeah.
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 Yeah, what a massive moment.
Yeah, it was a really huge moment. And Ethno, which is this choir that my old manager wanted me to be a part of, was doing the opening and closing ceremony at Woodford Folk Festival. And that's how I got that opportunity, was through Ethno. And then later on, I think 2 years later on, they asked me if I wanted to go to Sweden and do an exchange program where you train to be a leader. You have 100 people in this orchestra from all around the world who speak different languages, who play different instruments. And I'm like this 14-year-old getting thrown into this random village in Rättvik in Sweden, and I'm staying there and camping next to all these strangers.
What did that feel like?
It was incredible. Like, I think it really was a point for me where music was so much bigger than just pop music, like the mainstream music. Like, there was world music. Like, I got to sit down with all these people and learn folk songs in their languages. And then we took those folk songs and utilised all the people and all the instruments that were there to rearrange the folk song and make it more of a choir contemporary thing. And then we performed it all around Sweden for like 3 weeks. Like this show, we took it. And I think when you're young, yeah, you get that perception and you get that perspective too. Like, actually, there's all these different theories. Like I was learning about like how music works in Croatia, how music works in India, how music works in the Netherlands and over in Canada.
Yeah,
Like,
there's different canons
yeah,
of music. Yeah,
yeah,
from all around.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that really, really tells with what I do with my own music. Like, I'm so open to exploring. I'm so open, like, just to trying new things. Like, there's no, not really protective, but I'm really protective around my songwriting and my lyrics. Like, that's my, like, I'll fight you for it. Like,
Yeah, that's your stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you were 14. Were you traveling by yourself to
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. My
That's a
parents, thanks, parentals.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like
Yeah, and it
they
was a
would have
big thing.
grown up
Like,
really quickly.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
felt like I did. And I got to experience a lot, like Sweden, and then where did we go? Amsterdam. That was fun. Had my first little lollipop there. Hey! So I feel like, my career and my music journeys, like, and I still keep in contact with these people too. So
Mm.
it's really nice because we have that relationship and we have those memories. And then I went to another one when I was 17 in Paris, and really, really lucky. I turned 18 in Paris, and that was really fucking cool. I was like, whoa, this is like never, yeah, none of my family had ever been to Paris. And I just remember FaceTiming them from the Eiffel Tower and being like, look what I'm doing. And I was standing up there and having a good smoke on the tower, even though you're not allowed to, but
No,
YOLO.
you get
I mean,
away
at
you
that
get away
time,
with what you can get away
YOLO.
with, I think.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think, my music is definitely, I try to think of it as like an adventure. It's a journey.
Were your parents musical or artistic?
My mum's a dancer. My mum also, she studied at Akbar, which is also where I went for, I think, a month. So I grew up watching my mum dance on stages around like Leah Purcell and like Ancestress, who's another amazing singer-songwriter. And seeing, like, being young and seeing my mum do that stuff, I was like, oof, that looks so scary. But now I'm doing it and it's like, yeah, there's so much love for what you do.
What age were you when you like knew you wanted to be a musician?
I think I always wanted to. Like, I just always knew a part of me loved, like, just absolutely loved music. Like, I couldn't really imagine doing anything else. I mean, I tried giving journalism a go
Oh,
and
really?
social media stuff a go,
Was
but
that what was that like?
I don't know. Like, I did journalism at 98.9 FM in
Okay.
Brisbane. Did a
Yeah.
traineeship there when I was 16.
Mhm.
And it was really good. It was really awesome. It also made me realize how, um, we weren't really heard in particular spaces, like especially with around like the non-Indigenous journalists and stuff. It was like, oh, you're working there, like you weren't treated as your story mattered or kind of thing. And I think that's why music I like, because I get to control the narrative.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What social media you mentioned? What
Yeah,
were
it
you
was
doing?
pretty funny. So I used to work for this social media company before I released my EP Black Smoke, and we used to look after Greenpeace's social media stuff, and
Okay.
that was fun. We did end September. I don't know if you know
No.
about September, but September is something where you like walk in September and you raise money. You get to select a cause, and yeah, I think cerebral palsy is one of them that you can raise money for. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that was cool because that showed me and taught me a lot how to handle marketing and how to promote
Mm.
myself in different ways. But then COVID came and social media changed, you
What?
know?
How would you like describe your relationship to social media as an artist?
I'm out.
You're out.
I'm tapped out
Yeah.
completely. I've had to hire a social media team because I find that it can be such an unsafe and unpredictable space to be in, A couple of weeks ago I did a version and for Triple J, and
Yeah.
it was fun. Like, it was fun. But the response, like some of the responses I got, like just weren't nice. Like, didn't make me feel safe.
Yeah.
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 And so I just had to like tap out because I feel like when I first started, like I was going walking around putting posters up for my gigs. You know, that's like old school, proper like old school way. You
DIY.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think these days, especially with artists, I feel like, are we artists or are we influencers? Like, because it's a very different. Like, it's being creative and artists and having that creative expression and self-expression. It's like it's for the people, yeah. But I don't think I could see myself as an influencer in that way. Like, I think influencing is a bit of a weird word and a weird terminology sometimes. Whereas what you're doing, you're just doing what you love, and people dig that, and that's cool because that's the truth. There's the authenticity in that. You're not promoting someone else's brand or telling people to buy other people's stuff. It's like this. It means more coming from you because it's about you and it's your visions, your creativity, your ideas that are coming to fruition, and so you get to decorate the tree for people to pick the fruit off.
That's a beautiful way of
Yeah.
differentiating between the two.
Yeah.
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 Taking it back to that like aversion, and not about the social media side of things, but what made you choose Hosier's track? Wait, how did you decide to cover? Yeah.
Well, at first, to be honest, I wanted to do like a Sade or like a Tracy Chapman song. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but fuck it. I'm like, I don't want to say this, but fuck it. But Triple J were like, no, you got to choose something in the last 2 years that's been trending. And I was like,
right.
what? I was a bit shocked, because
Yeah.
the whole point of a like a version for me, or what my perception or the thought was, was that you come in and you choose a song that you like and you make your own flavor.
Take on
Like
it.
you
Yeah.
do it in your own way.
Yeah.
And so actually, because my partner teaches at a high school, and I don't mind Hosier, like I don't mind him, but I'm not like a big mega fanatic around him. But I was like, fuck, like what song am I gonna do? So I had like all these songs, and I was just going back and forth with my manager about these songs, and it was honestly so stressful.
Oh yeah, right. How long was that process from?
Probably like because everything's pre-recorded now, like like a version, probably like a month.
Okay.
And so we're going back and forth, and then my partner, I said to him, get all your little buddies at school, get all your little friends there and ask them for their top 3 songs that they're liking at the moment.
What age does your partner teach?
He teaches like 13 to like 16, so good range.
Yeah, you're getting
big
really
TikTok faces, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so I was like, get them to like make a list, and so they made a list. Like he gathered all the info.
Research.
Yes.
Gathering the data.
Yep, gathering the data. And then he come back to me and he's like, yeah, there's these songs. And then a friend of ours, our mutual friend, was like, oh, Hosier just released like their album and this song's going to go off. Like the kids are already starting, because he's a PE teacher at another school, and he's like, everyone's starting to fill up on this song. And I was like, had to listen to it.
It sounds like these teachers should be in music A&R.
Literally, right? I'm like, God, you guys are good. And so our friend was like, yeah, this one, Hosier, too sweet. And I had to listen to it. And originally I had 2 in mind. One of that song, Texas. In your boots, stop working and your truck break down. That one I was going to like push forward. And then Hosier, too sweet, I had to listen to it, and I sat with it. I sent it to my music director, who's Queer James, who I also co-produced the album with. And he came back to me and was like, yo, your voice would sound shit hot on this.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, yeah, right then. Yeah. So I sat down and just recorded a little demo and sent it to everyone. And everyone was like, this is fucking amazing. This is great. We love it. So I was like, all right, Hosier it is.
Cool.
Triple J loved it. So we were like.
Talk to me about the like arrangement for that
arrangement,
cover. Yeah. Because like, did you work on that with a band?
I did.
Is it a Triple J band, or is it like you bring your own band?
I flew my band down from Darwin. Yeah, so I was like, come on, you mum.
Yeah.
Off to Triple J we go.
Yeah, amazing.
And then because obviously, like, I like rock and roll. I love folk. Like, I'm very, like, acoustic. But we decided to produce the track up a little bit, just to give it a bit more depth and range and
Kind of get it to
feeling.
where you're at now rather
Yeah,
than like going back to your old roots, so to
yeah.
say.
Because I was like, we could do an acoustic version of it, and I was like, no, it's just it doesn't. I mean, an acoustic version would be lovely. Like, don't get me wrong, any kind of version would be lovely, but it has to represent me.
And where
So
you're
it
at
has,
now.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so we sat down with it, and James sat with the band up in Darwin, and we're FaceTiming and going through it, and I was like, Nolly needs to just have Nolly, who's the guitarist. I was like, I feel like Nolly just needs to have a solo opening with that guitar riff that he's doing, because wasn't it was just straight into it when we originally recorded. And so, yeah, we just kind of worked it out, like, the journey, like, we just need to build up the journey and then end it with just my voice, because that's the original idea of how I wanted to do it, right? Just vocals and guitar. And so, yeah, we got there in the end.
Yeah, cool. If you were gonna do a Sade song, which song would it have been?
Oh, fuck. Isn't it?
Let's go. There's a guitar.
No, I would do that one probably. I think there's also, like, there was also that one that I heard her do a cover of, but it's by Desiree,
Oh, cool.
and it's in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, Kissing You.
Kissing You.
Yeah, amazing. I love that song. The Romeo and Juliet soundtrack
That
is
shit
like
fucks me up
something I
every
go back to
time.
every year.
I don't know why Sade didn't do that song. Like, I always think it's her singing, which is funny. But yeah, I think isn't it a crime? I think that's what the song's called. That
Yeah.
the one that I would do.
Yeah, cool.
She's got a really beautiful voice, but maybe next, like, a version, they'll probably let me do it. I mean, if I would have sent them a demo, I'm pretty sure they would have been like, yeah, but
Yeah. It's like, as an artist, like, when, like, trusting your instincts, and like, when do you know is the time to fight for something creatively and when is the time to compromise?
I feel like I'm constantly, like, well, not now, because I feel like I've got a really good team around me that take those conversations and kind of spearhead the difficult ones for me. But whenever I feel uncomfortable about something, so if there's like a gut feeling where I'm like, this just doesn't feel good, I will not go near it. Like, I just fully trust myself and know myself. Like, also my mental health. Like, if I'm put into weird predicaments or weird situations where I'm not feeling good, my spirit's not feeling good, I won't feel good for the next couple of days. And so I just save the trouble and the trauma and just opt out, Hundy. Like, good ways, but I just refuse to compromise anymore. Like, I just, yeah, like, if you're not meeting me halfway, I'm not going to you.
Yeah, I'm not going 70%.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Has that been like a big change for you?
It has
Like
been,
a mind
yeah.
shift?
It has been. Like, there was like a big thing that happened over the last year, and then I ended up managing myself for like 8 months, and it was a lot of unlearning, a lot of, like, standing in my power, a lot of, like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I release this song? Should I just not do that? Should I spend 30K on a film clip? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Just
like,
making the big decisions.
yeah. And then, like, having the right people around you to, like, advise on those decisions and give you the information.
Fucking crucial. So crucial. I think if that's one big advice I were to give to myself or to anyone trying to start out in the industry, is make sure that your team and the people you surround yourself with are there for you, not for the industry, not for the connections, not for the networks, not for the money. Like, they're people that you can roll with on a daily and you feel comfortable, like, you feel safe, you feel heard and respected, most importantly, and
Mm.
that respect and love is being reciprocated both ways, because it's not just a one-sided thing. Like the people who are in my team now, like I would literally Superman punch any cunt for them. Like literally. It gets to that point where you're like, this is my ride or die. Like they've got my back
Yeah.
110%.
They're
Like,
gonna listen to this and be like,
yeah.
okay, all
Yeah,
right.
you hear
Let's
that,
go.
Liz and Cav? Fucking love you. You too, Fee.
What's your relationship like with them? What is like, how did you find them?
I just kind of went, like did the through the grapevine, as you know, through the mob, through the community, like you just have these conversations and you're like, is this one good or no, I haven't one yet. And I think for me, it is about that. Like it's about, it's got to feel like it's community. Like it's got to feel like we can go out and have a dinner and like have a good laugh, and I can do dumb shit in front of them and not feel like I'm being a weirdo or like, or uncomfortable. Like fully embracing the self in those spaces is really crucial too. Having uncomfortable conversations, priority. If I can tell my management or if I can tell people that I'm working with that I don't like this, fuck it off. They listen and that's cool. Like, or
Yeah,
I don't
cool.
like what you're doing, like, don't do that. They listen and they kind of like, make you feel safe. And I think in a space where, this industry was never made for, like, never thought of. We were never thought of when this industry was made. And so to be here as a Black woman, being like the CEO of my own business and calling the shots and being like, no, we're not doing this, we're doing this. And it just feels so liberating because I know that by leading by example, I'm also showing to these young ones that are coming up that we can run our shit. We are the boss. We can have the last say and that be it. Like no ifs, buts, or maybes. Like anyone tries to butt me, bro.
What's been like talking about your like being the CEO, and what's been that sort of the biggest challenge for you?
I think the biggest challenge is like social media for
Yeah.
one. Like that's another. That's
Like as a distraction.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like
Like
if
I should be doing this.
yeah,
Yeah.
if we didn't have social media, I just feel like things would feel more real. Sometimes when you're in certain places, like you see and notice like clicks, and you see it feels really high school vibe sometimes, and I'm like. It does like that's probably one thing that does my head in is like we shouldn't be divided in a space that already is dividing us, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We don't need to do that with each other, especially mob. And I think
It can be hard to not fall into
it
that
can be,
trap.
yeah,
Yeah.
because this industry, it's a system, it's a systematic of oppression, right? And it tells us that there can only be one in certain spaces or in certain genres. There can only be one hip hop star. There can only be one pop singer. There can only be one R&B. There can only be one jazz, opera, poetry. I mean, probably, yeah, I don't know. People aren't really onto the poetry train yet, but they should be because
Oh no,
poetry,
this.
Indigenous poems, like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Do you write as well?
I do
Still?
write. I
Oh,
do write.
cool.
I love
Have
poetry.
you? I may be ignorant here, but have you published poetry
On
at all?
what? On what? What is it? What pad?
Oh,
Wattpad?
cool. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So like on some online
Yeah, I've got
poetry
like a
stuff.
little private one and I write like little Aboriginal vampire stories and like sci-fi
Cool.
fantasy novels
Okay.
on there. But it's an alias, so no one knows it's me. But it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
whenever you're ready to share, I'm
Yeah,
sure
maybe
people will be
one
like,
day.
yeah,
One day I'd like to take my script and make it into like a TV show. It'd be cool.
cool. Um, on that, can we talk about Magic Woman dancing
Yeah.
the video?
So, what do you want to know?
Everything. Take me through like the whole. That was like an early song you wrote in high school, to bringing it to life with dancers and a director. What Talk me through it.
Magic Woman dancing is a bloody journey. You know when like you're in high school, like I don't know how it was for you, but I got a scholarship to an all girls
Okay.
private school, um, and I found it really challenging. Like I found the whole high school experience challenging because I wasn't rich like all these other girls. So they'd rock up in their like new iPhones or like deadly little watches and like little real diamond earrings. And here I am wearing my little $10 Kmart earrings. Like, and there was this one girl who was kind of like me and just really like rebel, like totally the opposite, like just went against the grain. Um, and I was really inspired by her. She was a little bit older than me, and a lot of like slut shaming was big in my school. Like it was really big.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would slut shame her and like just be really mean to her. And
Did you have many friends in high school?
I
Like,
did, like I kind of just dabbled with, I didn't really have like a particular group. Like I just dabbled with pretty much the outcasts of every social group.
okay.
That's
Did you
who
have
I
a Did you have a best friend?
I did have a best friend. Keyword did.
Yeah, we can talk about it later. There's a story. There's a story there.
This is
Yeah.
a story.
Keep going. The magic woman dancing.
And so I saw this chick and I was just like, I think that was like my first like female crush was this woman.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, yo, like you're so amazing. Like you're so hot. Like what the fuck? You're so lovely. Like what you're doing is amazing. And I wish people could see how liberating that is when you're truly in yourself and standing in your power and moving through these spaces with that I don't give a fuck energy. Like it's so cool. Because I felt like at that public school we always had to like, play by the rules. We always had to
Yeah,
we'd get in shit.
There's
Yeah.
a system that you have to
100%.
fit into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the box. We had to be in those little boxes. And so I went home and I wrote the chorus about this girl and I was a little bit jealous that I couldn't be like that yet. I was like, that's the kind of person I want to be. I want to be free and I want to be like, be able to do whatever I want to do as a woman and not live up to male's lens, like live through a male's lens. Like, fuck that. And so I wrote Magic Woman Dancing about her, and she later on became like, she's a sex worker now, which I fucking love. And like, because that's a real job, guys. That's work. Like, and so it just inspired me more. And then we got like, we were yarning, and then I just, retouched on the song. And still to this day, she doesn't know that I've written this song about her. I think she'll get really embarrassed and shame. But it's a big thing when you write a song about someone, especially when they inspire you in that way, And then when I reached out to Claudia Sanchiorci, who directed the film clip in Luchawita in Tasmania, I think I sent her like a 300 board Pinterest.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, what do we do? And I was like, no, you know what to do. I was like, you just sit with that for like a little bit.
Yeah.
And then come back to me.
Like, what was like the aesthetic? One word again, but the aesthetic of the Pinterest board.
Yeah, it was magic. Like it was fully like the female Lord of the Rings. Like it was like, I think the biggest inspiration for me was because I love fantasy sci-fi movies. They're just something like they just take you through this portal and I'm just like here for it.
Yeah. What's your like go-to?
Legend, Tom Ridley.
Okay.
That's the like the aesthetic again, but the cinematography and the way it's filmed, the set designs, the clothing. I had a big crush on the devil. Like I just remember because my mom first introduced me and I was like, oh my God, Mummy's so lovely. And she's like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And so that's the whole inspiration of me dressing up as the devil in the song because I just really wanted to. I wanted to pay homage to that movie and also to Lord of the Rings. Like I love Lord of the Rings. Like I've read all the books. Like it's something for me growing up as a child. it inspired like this imagination, like, all this cool stuff that you saw in those movies, like once upon a time, like, and in our mythology, like indigenous mythology as well, we've got stories about talking trees. Like we've got stories about sirens.
Yeah.
Like we've
I
got
love our shit.
literally, right?
Yeah.
Like we've got all those stories already in our culture. So I just felt like I was tapping into something that was always there, just bringing a new light to those situations. Like my mum, who is also features in the film clip, and Gabrielle, who's the main magic woman dancing, the designs that they're wearing are like from mob as well. Like my friend Bindamu weaved the big hat that my mum's wearing, and I just like to be able to have your friends, to be able to have your friends a part of your vision too, and their creativity, and to showcase their magic and their art. Like I think that for me is what community is about. Like being able to understand that, hey, this space isn't actually going to be mine forever. Like that's the law, LORE, of like how we roll. We're always thinking about the future. It's like so much more bigger than just the self. And I think that's what Magic Woman does. It reminds people like you can see this and feel these like weird feelings about something, but use that as an inspiration instead of trying to, I wouldn't say minimize or like trying to pull someone down, but instead of trying to do that, like use them as the inspiration that you can, and you have the possibility to become that, to do those things, to be that. It's like that's inside you because they're doing it. So why can't I?
Um, it's a beautiful film clip.
Thank you. So proud of
And
it.
we reviewed it when it came
Yeah,
out.
you
Like
did.
and George,
I love Georgie. She's
me too.
amazing.
What was collaborating with your mom like? Have you collaborated with her before?
I
Oh,
have,
cool.
yes.
Yeah.
So our dear friend, White Dingo, he did a track called Temptalion, and he asked my mother and I to come and be on this track. And in the film clip, we had to dress up as mermaids. So again, Bindamu, this is kind of full circle moment here, but Bindamu from scratch created these silicone mermaid tails. And so my mum and I can send you the photo if you want to, but my mum and I had to wear these mermaid tails on a pirate ship in Maroochydore. So we're in Maroochydore, and my mum was like dancing, and I had to do some dancing. Like I'm not very, very good at dancing, but with a mum as a dancer, I was just like, show me something.
Yeah.
And working with my mum, like a lot of like the language songs I co-write with my mum or my aunties, because I really think it's important that, and they also get royalties as well. So it's like making sure that we're,
Oh, cool. You build that in.
yeah, sustainable. We've
Yeah,
got to
amazing.
be able to do that. Yeah, 100%. But working with like my mum, it's so magic because she's like a fairy. Like I call my mum a little fairy. She's just like flutters around and yarns with everyone, and her energy is so peaceful and so grounding. Like when people, you know how people were like going crazy over crystals and stuff and really witchy things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, like that's what I grew up around. My mum was this very like holistic, spiritual. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
cool.
see my mum as a spirit, like my best friend, but a spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what is your relationship to like spirituality?
Um, I'm very much a spiritual person. Like I'm very much about energy, the flow. Whenever I see like a white cockatoo or like a little green tree frog, like I'm like, that's ancestors. That's a good sign. Willy wagtail dancing, good sign. Like I'm just always constantly looking for signs from country because that's where I'm going to go back to. Like, and I feel like everything past, present, future, for me it exists all in the same. Like what we're doing, yeah. It's like it's I'm a very deep feeler as well, like very empathetic and take on people's energy. So these last couple of years, like I've been doing practices like qigong and yoga and like meditation to really
How did you find those? Like, how did you come across those?
I think no one like really talks about it, but like mental health is such a big like when I first started, no one was really talking about that. And my mental health journey with the industry, like in music, has been a challenge. Um, I've had my highs and I've had my lows, as we all do. And I think I just got to a point where I was like, I need to put in practices to help protect myself and my energy and feel peaceful when I go into these situations or into these spaces, or, before I do a gig, like I'll just have like a 10-minute qigong. I need an hour to myself. Everyone get the fuck out of my green room. Like that.
Get the fuck out. I'm
Yeah,
shigonging.
literally. I'm qigonging in here, guys. No.
And that like grounds and
It
centers and
really does.
focuses.
Yeah. Like my mother-in-law, my partner's mum, is a qigong teacher. And so when I moved to Tassie, because qigong is something that they do in China anyway. Like they to have this Tai Chi, Qigong, beautiful Kung Fu, like even that, it's a really beautiful meditative practice for them. Um, and so she kind of pulled me aside and was like, maybe you just need to try this and give it a go. She's like, I can do a couple lessons with you. And I'd never done anything like that. I would just be like, yeah, I'm just going to smoke a J and I'll be fine. Like, but I really had to work through all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like you really have to, because you do things to kind of like silence the noise. And I was like, there's so much noise happening. I can't handle it. And she's like, but you don't need to listen to all of it at once. And I was like, how do I do that? And so she really helped me, because I was like a mom, like can't just come out being a single mom and then in this relationship. And she could see like I was so unaligned. Like I was all over the place. And so I'm very, very grateful to her guidance and to her showing me all these different practices, because, even Zen's great, and that's just literally breathing. Like sometimes we forget to breathe properly too, like through the nose, out the mouth. It's like sometimes I'll be like, like breathing like I'm a dog.
Well, because it's like breath is like one of the things that you do both consciously and unconsciously.
It's so powerful when you really tap into your breathing, and when like you tap into feeling your body, like, and feeling grounded in it. Yeah.
Has like taking, how long have you been doing those practices for?
5 years now.
Has that changed your like approach to the creative process as well? Has it grown it in a different way?
I think it's just given me more of that. Like, how people say like you need to be your own best friends first. I think it's given me a kind of a boundary thing where I'm like, I set how safe my space is, and those that come in, like, they'll feel safe because I've made this safe space. Like I've taken control and I've taken the leadership to be able to get rid of shit cunts and bring in good cunts.
Yeah.
Like, because we can all be cunts. Like,
yeah.
There's good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah,
and then sometimes there's both.
Sometimes we're the villain in someone else's story.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, but yeah, I just try to use these methods as a way of calming myself, because I get really bad social anxiety sometimes. So I'll go into spaces freaking out, like thinking everyone hates me. Reality, no one does. But it's just like that imposter syndrome that comes in too. And I think taking a step back from social media, being able to have these practices, like, just remind me that I'm a human being at the end of the day, and you're supposed to go through all these emotions and feelings in order to grow to the best version of you, right? And yeah, it's just a constant reminder that I'm allowed to feel this and I'm valid. Everything I'm feeling is valid. But what I'm not allowed to do is take it out on other people. Like, I feel like that was, for me, a big point where I was like, no, that's my own shit. I love you, but that's my own shit that I've got to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I want to jump back to that album if we can.
Yeah.
This is your first time playing synths,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah, why did you want to play synths?
I love piano, and when I saw, like, in Queer James's studio, he has this big Moog matriarch, and they're like $15,000. Like, they are expensive.
Yeah, and when you walked in, and saw it, what was your like? Did you need to touch it?
I needed to lick it. Like I just wanted to like pet it, everything. I was like, this is so yummy and this is so good. And also like he was like, you should get on the synth and chuck on. And I was like, no, I am. Even if he told me like, no, I am. I was like, you can fucking leave the room because me and this baby girl are gonna have a real deep play. Like,
And did you? Like
yeah,
how long?
yeah.
How long?
Like every time we'd sit there, I'd just be like, chuck on the moog real quick. Just
Yeah,
chuck
let me
that
let
on.
me let me just let me just jam
While he's like doing production stuff, I'm like, can you just chuck that on?
with like headphones on with hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I think it's really important though to play, and create like, because when you go, like I always say to people who are mentoring, you got to get rid of that shame factor. Like you got to put that shame factor aside and say, this is fun. Like this is just like, this is fun. Don't treat it like it's work. Because if you go into that headspace, then you start thinking about what other people think, what your label expects, like all of these things instead of being there and showing up as you and having fun with it. And I know that's like easier to say than to do, but
Yeah, it's one of those things that feels like it's silly to have to say that to yourself,
yeah,
but you do,
you
like
literally have to.
creatively, like external pressures and
Yeah.
just being there in the moment
Yeah,
is the key to making great work.
so true. And I think like especially we as mob, like we come into spaces with that whole shame factor thing. Like it's just embedded in us. Like sometimes I feel like it comes up for me, like, and I'm like, oh fuck, should I do that? Nah, shame. And I'm like, oh hey, come on now.
Hey.
No, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of a wake up call, And as you get older too, you just kind of like, I'm getting old.
Uh, yeah. What collaborating with people on the album?
So I've got
You've got some really
4.
cool collabs.
Yes, there is
Yeah.
some really cool collabs. Who have I got on there? Oh yeah. So I've got 4. I had to think about that
Do you
because I
want
was
me to pull
like,
it up?
fuck. No, that's all right. So I've got 4 people who I've collaborated with on the album. The first one is Tasman Keith on Lordy Lordy. Amazing. The second one, Zeppelin Hamilton from Velvet Trip. His I love Zeppy. Zeppy's just a great human being, great friend. Like to be able to sing that song with him, like it's such a vulnerable song about leaving the people I love behind. And to be able to sing that, it's like he just added something magic to it. Like I can't wait. The third one, Lisa Mitchell. I love Lisa Mitchell. I grew up listening, like she's one of my like teen idols. And so it's kind of like 360, like sad story, but when my grandmother passed away, they asked me to sing a song at her funeral. And I was like, oh, I don't know, this is going to be hard. I don't really want to. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sing a song. And I rocked up and my uncles learnt the guitar chords to Neapolitan Dreams by Lisa Mitchell. And I changed the lyrics to my grandmother's name and in like a little bit in language too, so mob there. But it was really a moment when I reached out to her and I was like, "Do you want to jump on
Did
this
you?
song?"
Yeah. Did
Like,
you tell Lisa
I
about
did
that?
tell Lisa, yeah,
Wow.
and because she's just become a mama too, so we've got that really beautiful connection. And it's kind of a spin out when you work with your idols. You're just like, I never thought that would happen. Like, yeah, so it was pretty special. And she's on a song called "See Me There." Um,
What to like unpick that, like how did it feel to work with your idol? They say like don't meet your idols or any of that, but like to work with them, what was that like?
I don't know. I feel like all my idols that I've been meeting, like the people that I've been looking up to, like I've met a couple of them, and they're really lovely, really really lovely people. I think you just kind of get reminded that hey, like like you see them as a celebrity, and then when you meet them, you're like, actually, you're a fucking like you're a person,
You're a
like you're a
human.
full on person, like you
Yeah.
got your own shit going on, you got your own like demons that you're working through. Like this is I find it more relatable. Like I'm like, wow, now this feels like a real genuine connection because we can relate on the bad, like
Yeah.
and we have
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
we were approaching each other at a different level than
exactly.
when before I was looking up at
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like now I'm walking beside you.
Wow.
Like
And who was the fourth collaborator?
the fourth collab is my little brother, Arangari. Um, his name's Shakan, but his stage name is Anangari, which is our great great grandfather's traditional name that got given to him when he was born. And working, I've worked with my mother, like, and now working with my baby brother, like, he's not really baby, he's like 6 feet tall, but still always will be baby to
Oh,
me.
how old is he?
He's 23.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
23,
Yeah.
20, no, 24 this year.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm
Oh.
like, oh, time just goes so fast.
And was that
Um,
like, are you proud to have him on that track?
so proud, like, so proud. And Stay the Fuck Away for me is a song about mental health. And at the time, my brother and I and my daughter were like, we need to go home back to Bickerton Island. And this was before I went in the studio and recorded the album. And I was supposed to be supporting Kate Miller Heidke for her tour. And it was the first time I said no because I wasn't feeling well. And, I was crying a lot, just feeling not good about myself. And um, we ended up going home back to our country and sitting down on country. And I wrote Stay the Fuck Away from Me there on my grandmother's country. And my brother was with me. And I was like, you should just jump on and write a verse, like write a little poem, like, doesn't matter, just for fun. I was like, we might not even use it. And that was it. We ended up recording it and he ended up being a part of it. And I think it makes me really emotional because youth suicide, like in my community, is like we have a really high rate of youth suicide across this whole country. First Nations people, like especially our young ones. And I remember the first time someone said to me, "It's okay to not feel okay." I think I was 22 when someone said that to me. If I heard that when I was 13, 14, or younger, like I feel like I would feel okay with not being okay. But because there was that stigma, like you always had to be
Yeah.
presentable, you always had to look good because you're doing stuff, you always had to be professional, like when really you just wanted to crawl in a ball and cry your eyes out. It's like now I do. Like now I can comfortably go and do that in my own space and in my own safe space and not feel ashamed of or see that as a weakness. Like I feel very empowered by that and writing that song with my little brother. Like a lot of our young men and women need to hear that it's okay to not be okay, and sometimes you can just tell them to stay the fuck away.
Yeah, you can set boundaries and
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what it's about. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Last question. How does it feel to have a vinyl?
To have a vinyl, it's a bit surreal. Like it really is so surreal because they cost so much money to make, and so I was like, I could never do that. Like, I could never have a vinyl or like even having CDs was tough. Like breaking even with that, like just always constantly thinking about the financial burden.
Yeah, it's that juggle as an artist to go
Yeah,
like, oh, this is a cool product to have,
yeah,
but it doesn't change the art making at all. Yeah.
exactly. But like to have a vinyl, it's a pretty special moment for me. Um, it's kind of a full circle moment because the first thing I listened to, I think it was like it's like a hot country hits that my grandfather had on vinyl, and that was the first vinyl that I saw. And it was like old, so like Linda Roast and Charlie. What's his name? I can't even think right now, but I can see the faces. They have the like little getting little cutout of the faces on the vinyls and stuff. So it feels like it's a moment for me that feels like that's successful. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm on the road, like I'm getting there and I'm thriving. I'm in a really good space. Like and just have the support behind this next era as well because it's something that not a lot of people would hear me or see me as. Like even the creative vision we've gone like with this and the makeup and like the styling and everything we've gone through is really, yeah, it's out of the box. But I feel like I'm a very out of the box person, and I want to be able to represent that.
Does this feel more you
Yeah.
than your like earlier work?
Yeah, most definitely. I felt like with Milyakbara, that was like a homage to my country and to my grandmother. With this, it's acknowledging what I've been through, and that's like, yeah, it's a lot of it takes a lot of strength, honestly. Like some of the songs on the album, like Passport, which is the last song on the album, I still find really hard to sing live. I find that a challenge. I think it just brings up some emotions, and I end the song and I'm like, I don't know, bawling my eyes out like on stage. But I feel like those are the kind of things people need right now. Like just reminders that it's okay to feel like that and to process it, feel it, but understand it. But also, like, that's life. Like, life is just this beautiful, chaotic journey that takes you to all these magical, wonderful places, and you meet beautiful people, and you come across the most, like, majestic presences, like, in this whole industry. And I think it's really like, I just feel like I'm a conduit for all of these stories to come through, and I know that in turn, when people listen to this album, they're gonna find a safe space in there to feel whatever they need to feel or whatever they're going through. I know with Black Smoke, like when I released that, I had all these messages over the years from people telling me that that song literally like saved their lives. And I was like, shit, like, you don't think about that. Like, you just think, "Oh, I'm writing this song. Like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, fuck that guy." Like, and then someone else messages and they're like, "No, that saved me." It's like, oh, wow. Like, what we're doing is so crucial and so important for not just, like, I always think of it, it's much more bigger than me as a person. It's the legacy that I'm trying to leave is going to echo long after I'm gone, long after my grandkids are gone, long after their grandkids are gone. Like there'll be that history and that lineage and that power that'll just echo into the future. And even in the past.